Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name's Dan, and this is going to be part 2 of my favourite films video. Now, really quickly, I want to say sorry for the way that the first video ended. If you didn't watch the first video, basically, my camera ran out of storage, and I'm just fucking stupid when it comes to technology. So I just had to end it on a black screen and explain what happened. So here's part 2, and apologies for that. So just to go over it very, very quickly, in case you haven't watched part 1, I'll put a link in the description below. But basically, I'm not ranking them. I'm just kind of talking about them in vaguely chronological order. So I got up to Django Unchained last time, so let's continue from there. So 21 and 22 Jump Street are 2 of my favourite films. I think they're very funny. I think you get a lot more out of them the more you watch them, or at least that's been my experience. I'm a big fan of spoof movies. I like a lot of Leslie Nielsen films, and there's not a lot of directors or writers who can do spoof today, but Lord and Miller are very good at doing that, and Jonah Hill, who wrote the script for 21 Jump Street, is very good at that. And I just, I like me a high school movie anyway, and with that cast and with that kind of tongue-in-cheek comedy, and it's got action as well, and I just find them very enjoyable. And I think, in my opinion, the 2010s were a pretty bad decade when it comes to comedies, but I think the Jump Street films were some of the best that we got, so that makes them even more sweet. Next up's a little-known movie called What If? I believe it's a Canadian film. I think it's called The F Word in America. But it's kind of like a quirky indie mumblecore dramedy film, which I know that description might turn a lot of people off, and if you're not into that, then you're probably not going to like this. But it's got Daniel Radcliffe, Adam Driver, Mackenzie Davis, Zoe Kazan, Rafe Spall, loads of people in it, really good cast, and it's just charming. It's just a really charming film. So check that out if you're wanting something a little bit different that you probably haven't seen before. Check out What If. As I said in my first video, some of these I'll go into in detail, some of them I'm just going to skim over. So I've got The Wolf of Wall Street, This Is the End. This is the end, actually. One of the best, I said this about Superbad, but I think it applies here as well. One of the best comedy casts ever assembled. And the fact that everyone's playing themselves just makes it kind of a unique film. Like, I can't really point to another film and say, oh, that's like This Is the End. I mean, Edgar Wright's The World's End was about the apocalypse and was a comedy and came out in the same year, but it was nothing like This Is the End. This Is the End. It had a lot of raunchy humour, but it had a very tongue-in-cheek nature in the fact that all the actors played themselves, but like kind of exaggerated versions of themselves, or how we view them. Yeah, and then it's got movie references in there as well, so really good film for me. Seth Rogen's one of my favourite actors. It's got Seth Rogen, Jay Baruchel, Danny McBride, who steals the show, James Franco, who's amazing in it, Jonah Hill, Craig Robinson, Emma Watson's in it, Michael Cera has a cameo, Paul Rudd has a cameo, Aziz Ansari has a cameo. There's even another big cameo, but in case you haven't seen the film, I won't ruin it. But yeah, really great cast, and just funny film, I think. Whiplash I've talked about on this channel at length before, so I won't go into it too much, but Whiplash basically is one of the most personal films to me, because I relate very heavily with the main protagonist of that film, Andrew Neiman, and I think it's one of the best edited films I've seen. It's got one of the best finales or endings that I've seen. Damien Chazelle does this really good thing actually, where most films they kind of run their course, and then you have the big climax at the end, and then you have the aftermath scene where you see the family settle down in their new life and it's all happy and perfect. Damien Chazelle doesn't do that. Damien Chazelle ends it on the climax. He ends it at the highest possible peak. With pretty much every movie I've seen of his, which is all of them, he does that, and I just appreciate that because it just leaves you on a higher note, it's like finishing on a bang. So great ending, fantastic performances, fantastic editing. The tension in that movie is unreal, and something else, I mean, the sound design goes without saying, but another good thing about Whiplash is, or an interesting thing about Whiplash is, I believe they shot it in 14 days, and I remember seeing an interview with, it was either Miles Teller or J.K. Simmons, and they said that when they were filming Whiplash, they thought that Damien Chazelle basically had no idea what he was doing, because he would just get like one shot of everything and then move on, and he was just so rapid with it, and they were like, what's this kid doing? And then they saw the finished product and they were like, oh, okay, he knew exactly what he was doing, that's why he only needed one take. But yeah, Whiplash, I absolutely love that. Boyhood, I'm going to talk a bit about Boyhood, because Boyhood is a film that I watched for the first time a couple of years ago, and I absolutely adored it. It was one of those films that just charmed me from minute one. It's almost 3 hours long, and I was sad when it ended. And for me, that's how I know I've seen a good film, is when it ends and I'm sad. Like Superbad, one of my favourite films. Every time Superbad ends, I'm like, oh, like when, like the morning after scene and then they're kind of on the escalators in that shopping mall, I was like, oh, no, I don't want this film to end. Like, I feel the same way with Boyhood. And actually, the first time I watched it all the way through, and as soon as it finished, I restarted it and just watched it all again because I loved it that much. And then went a couple of years without watching Boyhood, rewatched it to see if it would make this list, and I fell completely in love with it all over again. It's probably not quite in my top 10 of all time, but it's getting there. I think if I watch it a few more times and I have the same emotional response every time, I think it could possibly squeeze into my top 10. I really do like Boyhood. That's also one I have a bit of a personal connection with, because the Mason's relationship with his dad in the film very much reminds me of my relationship with my dad, which is not something I've seen in many films. That whole thing of, like, I grew up not living with my dad. I lived with my mum and I visited my dad. I know a lot of people have that, but it's not even as vague as that. Like, it's just the way that his dad is the way that my dad is. He's always kind of like the cool dad, and we'd see him on weekends and do fun stuff. And then kind of deeper than that is the kind of stuff about how you don't really appreciate your mum because she does all the most difficult stuff and you live with her and you do the cool stuff with your dad, and kind of learning to appreciate your mum when you're older, and like just all that stuff really struck a chord with me. And it's shot in like sunny Texas, and it's got that nostalgic feel because they started shooting it in 2002, because obviously they filmed it over the course of 12 years, so you see these people grow up in front of your eyes, which in itself is amazing. But it feels nostalgic because a lot of the film is from decades ago, and they have great conversations. Like, there's a conversation where Mason and his dad, they're talking about Star Wars, and they're saying, like, will there ever be another Star Wars trilogy? And they say, well, if there is, it can't take place after Return of the Jedi because the story's done there. And that is such like a little time capsule thing, because obviously we have a new Star Wars trilogy and it does take place after Return of the Jedi. So things like that, they just make it a product of its time, and they show like where the kind of thinking and the zeitgeist was at the time and how everything's changed since then. So yeah, I love Boyhood. And also that song Hero by Family of the Year gets me every time I hear it on the trailers. Kingsman, Mad Max Fury Road, which Mad Max Fury Road has got to be one of the best action movies of all time. Quite possibly the best action movie of all time. I know it's Edgar Wright's favourite action movie of all time. But it's just amazing. The stunt work is, I would go as far as to say, maybe the best ever in a movie. The colour correction, the whole nighttime sequence when it's all purple, it's just good. Like, you can take pretty much any frame out of this movie and make it a poster or a desktop background or anything like that. It's just such a gorgeous, just a visual feast. The music, Brothers in Arms by Junkie XL, one of my favourite like movie soundtrack songs. Just such visceral action, visual storytelling. Like, the only complaint I ever hear about Mad Max Fury Road is people say, oh, well, there's not much character development, it's not got like a super tight script. But actually it does. You kind of have to look for it because a lot of it is visual, but it really does. Like, the character of Nux, I think he's called, the guy that Nicholas Hoult plays, he goes through a tremendous character arc, and there's a lot more going on underneath if you really want to look for it. And also one of the coolest movies of all time. I mean, the shot where the guy is playing the electric guitar with flames coming out of it on top of that thing, just fucking awesome. That movie just gives you like an adrenaline rush. It's a 2-hour car chase, and it's as amazing as it's better than it sounds. That sounds like it would get tiresome. It doesn't. It's just relentless, and it's amazing. Speaking of some of the coolest movies of all time, I want to give a shout out to a film that I really appreciate that not a lot of people seem to, which is Mandy. If you haven't seen it, it came out a couple of years ago. It was directed by Panos Cosmatos, or Panos Cosmatos, I'm not really sure how you say his name. He did Beyond the Black Rainbow as well. And in my opinion, it's Nicolas Cage's best performance ever. Johan Johansson's score is one of my favourites ever, and I'm so sad that he passed because he was just becoming like one of the key kind of composers in the film industry, and then he tragically passed. But I love the score, I love the cinematography. It's just one of the coolest movies of all time, in my opinion. I mean, it's got Nicolas Cage having a chainsaw fight against a guy with an even bigger chainsaw. I mean, how cool is that? Or maybe he has a bigger chainsaw. But the point is, Nicolas Cage in a chainsaw fight. There's also a scene where I believe he snorts cocaine off a shard of glass. There's a bit where he sets someone on fire and then lights his cigarette off them, or his spliff or something. Like, it's fucking crazy, but it's awesome. And it's got all that cult stuff in there. And it's one of those films that's very much to do with the atmosphere and the vibe. And if you don't like a kind of dark, moody, kind of cult vibe, then you won't like it. But watch the trailer. The trailer captures it very well. But I love Mandy. La La Land I've mentioned before, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but that's one that is... The reason this isn't a top 10 list or a top 20 list is because I couldn't find 10 films that were definitely in my top 10, but La La Land is one which absolutely would have been in my top 10 had I made this a top 10 list. So yeah, La La Land all the way. The Nice Guys, that's one I love. Shane Black is a frustrating filmmaker and writer because when he gets it right, he can be fucking brilliant. Like, there's a film that he wrote called The Long Kiss Goodnight, which I absolutely love. He also wrote a film called The Last Boy Scout, which is fantastic. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Nice Guys, excellent films. But then on the other hand, you've got things like Iron Man 3, The Predator, which, by the way, I'm actually an advocate of Iron Man 3. I'm a defender of that film. But I still don't think it's on par with his other stuff. But The Nice Guys is Shane Black at his best, in my opinion, both in terms of writing and directing. I think it's got a super tight script. It's hilarious. Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe's chemistry is top-notch. But even beyond that, the film has a genuinely intriguing mystery at the centre of it, which you can't say about a lot of these films. And you know how I was saying that the 2010s weren't particularly good for comedies? I would maybe go as far as to say that The Nice Guys is the best comedy of the 2010s, in my opinion. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And even the way it looks, the colour correction, the way that the action is shot, the fact that it's about Hollywood, because I love me a Hollywood movie, so as in like that takes place in Hollywood or that's about Hollywood, so it's got that kind of meta textuality to it. And yeah, it's just brilliant. Deadpool, one of the funniest movies I've seen. I remember when I saw that in the cinema for the first time, like opening day, and the scene where Deadpool is trying to beat up Colossus, but he's just like, well, beating himself up essentially. That scene was so funny. People were laughing so hard that I actually missed about half of the next scene. Like, you couldn't hear. People were still like trying to recover and just still pissing themselves laughing from that. Had such a good cinema experience there. And I think that can really shape how you see a film. Like, if you have a good or bad experience with it in the cinema. And I had a fantastic experience with that. I saw that with my dad. Don't see a lot of films with my dad. He doesn't watch a lot. And if I can show him a film and he loves it, that makes me feel really good. And he did love Deadpool. And yeah, it's just funny, and that was kind of a parody on the superhero genre, not full parody, but kind of. Everybody Wants Some, which is another Richard Linklater movie, similar to Dazed and Confused, but instead of taking place in the 70s, this time it takes place in the 80s. It's about a bunch of baseball students, like at college, who basically just party and get to know each other and just do college stuff, and it's really feel good. It's a hangout movie. There's not a lot of plot to it. There is like a romance element and a competition element, but it's really, really low on plot. So if you don't like that, this probably won't be your thing. But I do like that. And I actually think Richard Linklater is the director with the most amount of films on this list. He's got 4 films on this list, which is more than any other director, I believe. Baby Driver, of course, is one. I think I saw that 4 times in the cinema. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Not since Baby Driver have I seen a film that I liked as much. So that's still, like, that came out 3 years ago now. In the subsequent 3 years, I haven't seen a single film that I like as much as Baby Driver. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is one. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I can't quite put it up there with my all-time favourites just yet. But I've seen it 4 times now, and every time I watch it, it goes up in my estimation. When I first watched, when me and Matt did a ranked video, which you can go back and watch, I'll link it down below if you want, a Tarantino ranked video, and I think we placed it at number 5 or 6 out of his 9 films. For me personally, at this point, it's probably in the top 3 or 4 for me. I really, really do like it. And I think if I were to watch it again, I could see it going up again. So, yeah, I really do like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It just needs time to kind of cement itself. Joker, School of Rock. That's a film, me and my girlfriend watch that all the time. It's one of her favourite films. It's a film that, it's got a fucking brilliant soundtrack. Richard Linklater again, by the way. And in my opinion, Jack Black gives one of the all-time great comedy performances in that movie. He's just fucking phenomenal. And then you've got a supporting cast of Mike White, Sarah Silverman, Miranda Cosgrove, Joan Cusack. When Harry Met Sally, The Burbs, You've Got Mail. I realise I've gone back on the whole chronological thing. We're back in like the 80s and 90s now. But all those kind of sitcoms, You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle, all the kind of Meg Ryan movies with Tom Hanks or Billy Crystal. Wet Hot American Summer is one that I really like. Train to Busan, which in part 1 I said how my favourite foreign films of all time are Drunken Master and Legend of the Drunken Master. After those 2, I think it might be Train to Busan. And a testament to how good Train to Busan is. So if you haven't seen it, it's a zombie movie, and the whole film takes place on a train, bar like 1 or 2 scenes. Edgar Wright said after he made Shaun of the Dead, he couldn't watch zombie movies anymore because he was just so sick to the back teeth of them. And he said that Train to Busan is the only zombie movie he's watched since Shaun of the Dead that he's managed to actually watch all the way through and enjoy. So If that's not a testament, I don't know what is. Eddie Murphy, I'm a really big fan of Eddie Murphy as well. I love his movies like Coming to America, Trading Places, Bowfinger. There's so many, man. Mike Myers, big fan of Mike Myers, the Austin Powers movies, the Wayne's World movies. Not counting that. True Romance, which, if you haven't seen True Romance, if you like Tarantino's early work and you kind of need a fix of Tarantino's early work, go and watch True Romance. It's directed by Tony Scott. It's written by Tarantino, but he had a choice whether to direct that or Reservoir Dogs, so he chose to direct Reservoir Dogs instead. But it's very Tarantino. Like I said, it's written by him. It's got Patricia Arquette and Christian Slater in it, as well as Gary Oldman in one of the best. It might even be my favourite Gary Oldman performance in that movie is Drexel Spivey or Drexel Spivey. Really good. It's got Christopher Walken in as well. Really good kind of crime drama thriller with like black humour in it, and it's just fucking brilliant. Watch that, man. It's got style as well. The main character has an imaginary friend who is Elvis Presley. It's a weird film, but it just fucking works. It's so good. So yeah, I think that's most of my favourite films. There were a lot that I wanted to put on here, but it's hard to sort of know where to draw the line. So there were a lot that I've left off that I wanted to talk about. I apologise if I'm talking about too many films, because I know that can be a thing, but when I was coming up with my list, I just kept saying to myself, well, that has to be on there. Well, that has to be on there. That has to be like. So those are some of my favourite films that I've talked about in the last two videos. I'm going to do something a bit weird right now because I know a lot of people wanted a top 10, and I didn't make a top 10 video, but I'm going to try right now and come up with one off the top of my head. In no particular, I'm not going to rank them. I'm just going to come up with 10 films that I think should be on there. This could change at any moment, so don't change it as gospel. But right now, the way I'm feeling right now, my top 10 favourite films, in no particular order, I'm going to go Superbad, Spider-Man 2, Toy Story, The Empire Strikes Back, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Hot Fuzz, Groundhog Day, Django Unchained, La La Land, and I know I've already got an Edgar Wright movie on there, but I think I'm going to have to put Shaun of the Dead on there. So there you go, there's my impromptu top 10. If you have liked this video, it'd be a massive help to me if you'd like it. I know it's very easy to just watch a video and not drop a like on it, but it takes 1 second. If you have liked the video, please drop a like, because it does help out the creators massively. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, feel free to share, fucking with your friends if you think they'd like the channel. Anything like that that'll help us grow. I just want to say real quick, I've got my dissertation and another kind of personal project that have both got to be done by June. So there might not be a video for a little while. I was going to review Extraction, but honestly my dissertation and I've got this other thing that I'm working on, and I'm absolutely snowed under at the minute. So don't be surprised if there's not a video for around about 3 or 4 weeks. But when we come back, uni will be done. I'll be able to do more videos, more reviews. I'll get back to doing that. I know a lot of the most recent videos have been Q&As and favourites and stuff, but I'll get back to doing current stuff, like reviews and that, when we come back. We've only got big plans for the channel as well. We're going to get lighting. Me and Matt were on about kind of trying to rent a flat somewhere, and we're going to dedicate a whole room for the YouTube channel. We'll try to do at least a couple videos a week, 2 or 3 a week. We're going to get lights. We're going to get a better camera. We're going to get a better mic. We're going to have a better background than this. Better editing software. We do have big plans for the channel, but like I say, it might be a little bit rocky over the next month or so. Thanks for watching this 2-part thing. If you've enjoyed it, do drop a like or subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.